Hello viewers! Today we are going to read the spooky story The Haunted Dinosaur by Creepella von Cacklefur. It's the spookiest story I have ever read and according to Geronimo. So let's begin. Today we'll read chapter 1 to 4. Chapter 1. My whiskers still tremble with fright. If spooky stories give you nightmares, if you hide under the covers during thunderstorms, or if you're scared of the dark, monsters, or ghosts, then you'd better close this book right now. Oops, so sorry. I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Stilton, Geronimo Stilton, and I run the Rodents Gazette, the most famous newspaper on Mouse Island. Do you want to know what I'm squeaking about? The book you're holding contains a story written by the one and only Creepella von Cacklefur. She's the spookiest mouse I know. She lives in mysterious valley where the strangest adventures seem to take place. In fact, this story is so spooktacular it will make your fur, ears and tail quiver with fright. Now that you have been warned, do you still want to read the scary tale? Are you sure? Absolutely positively? Double dog dare English here? Well, alright then. I may as well start from the beginning. It was a warm evening in early spring. The setting sun cast a shadow over the roofs of New Mouse City. I was sitting in my favorite porch in my cozy living room, sipping a cup of hot melted cheddar. My nephew Benjamin was sitting on the floor engrossed in one of the books from my library. His class was planning a trip to the fossil forest that week, so he was reading all about it. Look, Uncle! He squeaked excitedly. This piece of cheese fossil goes back thousands of years. He showed me an illustration in the book he was reading, Traveling Through the Jurassic Era. I was about to take a look when there was a loud knock at the door. Knock, knock, knock. Who could that be? I wondered aloud. But when I opened the door, there was no one there. I looked down and saw a flat stone tied up with a purple bow. I looked around to see who had left it, but the street was deserted. How strange. Who was it, Uncle G? Benjamin asked. I said I wasn't sure. Then I showed him the stone tied with the bow. We quickly realized it wasn't one stone, but two. The tablets were tied together and there were sheets of paper between them. This is really unusual, I murmured as I untied the bow. Eck! I squeaked. A fossil of an enormous cockroach sat on top of the papers. Beside it was a handwritten note on a piece of coffin-shaped paper. I immediately recognized Creepella von Cacklefur's scented purple ink. I read the note aloud. Geronimo, do you remember our last adventure? I wrote it down so you can publish it. Here you go. A chill ran down my fur. Of course, I remember. I squeaked. My whiskers still tremble with fright whenever I think about it. What adventure is she talking about, Uncle? Benjamin asked, his eyes glowing with excitement. Will you read it to me, please? It's a little scary, but I'll read it if you are sure, I warned him. I'm sure, he squeaked eagerly. So I made myself comfortable and began to read. The Haunted Dinosaur. Story and illustrations by Creepella von Cacklefur. Chapter 2. A surprise for Geronimo. It was a foggy morning in Gloom area. A pale ray of sunshine flickered feebly through the clouds, barely illuminating the front door of Squeakspeare Mansion. A gloomy silence filled the ancient mansion. The 13 ghosts who lived there had spent the entire night cleaning the place from top to bottom. Now they were exhausted and they had fallen into a deep sleep. The desk in the mansion's study was overflowing with piles of books, stacks and stacks of paper and notebooks, and memo pads filled with scribbled notes. Someone was busy researching and writing the interminable, inexhaustible, endless encyclopedia of ghosts. But at that particular moment, that someone was not at his desk. Instead, he was a passenger in the Turbo Rapid 3000, Creepella von Cacklefur's creepy convertible. Who is Creepella von Cacklefur? She is the eeriest journalist in Mysterious Valley. Where are you going? The mouse in the back seat shuddered. I should be working. It was the newspaper mouse, Geronimo Stilton. He was sitting in the back seat next to Creepella's niece, Shiverine, and the von Cacklefur family's pet cockroach, Kafka. Creepella's pet bat flew in circles around Geronimo's head. Grandfather Frankenstein rode in the passenger seat, a small package in his lap. Oh, hush, Geronimo, Creepella replied, as she sped through the countryside. You don't want to miss it, do you? Miss what? Geronimo asked nervously. He would rather be holed up in a Shakespeare mansion, happily working on the Encyclopedia of Ghosts. Why, the opening of the exhibition, of course, Creepella replied. She honked her horn in greeting as she zoomed past her father's ears. The family's butler, Poncham, wasn't far behind. He was traveling by motorcycle with Grandma Crypt in his sidecar. Your entire family seems to be attending this event, Geronimo observed. But I still don't know what exhibition you are speaking about. Creepella smiled as the wind ruffled her raven-black hair. Of course, we are all attending, she replied breezily. We wouldn't miss it for the gloomiest funeral in the world. Isn't that right, Shiverine? Yes, replied Shiverine. I wouldn't skip it for the biggest horror film marathon. Kafka wiggled his antennas in agreement. I wouldn't miss it for the great ball of the mummies, piped up Grandma Frankenstein. But what's this exhibition about? Geronimo asked again, exasperated. Creepella brought her Turbo Rapid 3000 to an abrupt stop in front of the Glumeria Science Museum. You'll find out soon enough. Chapter 3. An exhibition worth waiting for. A large crowd had gathered in front of the Science Museum. Everyone was waiting impatiently for the doors to open, while the mayor, Charles Chatterpose, gave a long-winded speech. Rodents everywhere were yawning and fidgeting, their whiskers drooping with boredom. Dear citizens of Glumeria, the mayor droned, today we celebrate this auspicious event. We have been waiting for many gloomy months for the opening day of this great exhibition. The mayor's wife, Carol, took a step closer. Cut it, darling, she whispered in her husband's ear. Huh? The mayor replied. What did you say? Carol squeaked a bit louder. Cut it, dear, she repeated. I'm not quite finished yet, the mayor protested. Just a few more. The ribbon, Carol squeaked, exasperated. The mayor took one look at his wife and shut his mouth. Then he sliced through the purple ribbon in front of him with an oversized pair of scissors. Snip. Everyone quickly rushed into the museum, eager to see the exhibit. Geronimo looked up and saw this banner hanging over the museum entrance. Welcome to the exhibition of the year, the Haunted Dinosaurs of Mysterious Valley. Geronimo gulped. His whiskers quivered with fright. He was a huge scaredy mouse. Then he noticed two strange-looking rodents in a corner. Who are they? He asked. Creepella intrigued. Those are the most famous archaeologists in Glumeria, Ignacio Dustisnout and Petra Fossilfur, his friend explained. After years and years of research and archaeological excavations, they have finally finished reconstructing the skeletons of the dinosaurs that lived in Mysterious Valley millions of years ago. I have been looking forward to this for decades. This will be the perfect opportunity for me to test my latest invention, Grandpa Frankenstein said. Grandpa Frankenstein was a professor and an inventor. In his paws, he held a small black box with two buttons. One was red and the other was green. It's a bowbuster remote, he explained gleefully. If someone is boring me, I point the remote control at him, press the red button and boom, he is instantly immobilized. Moldy mozzarella! Geronimo gasped. That is pure evil. Will he stay frozen forever? Of course not, Grandpa Frankenstein replied. He'll be stunned for a couple of seconds. At the most, it will be a few minutes. He won't be able to squeak or move a paw. Creepella hugged her grandfather. Grandfather, you are a genius, she squeaked proudly. May I try it? Grandpa Frankenstein handed her the remote. Press the red button, but only the red button, he told her. Understand? Yup, she squeaked. Then Creepella pointed the remote directly at Geronimo. Creepella, please don't, he protested, but it was too late. She had already pressed the button. A red light illuminated Geronimo's face and he was immobilized immediately. Auntie, Shiverin exclaimed, now how are you going to move him around? That won't be a problem, Creepella chuckled. He'll be back to normal soon. Enough, right, Grandpa? Of course I'm back to normal, Geronimo squeaked as he wiggled his paws. Please don't freeze me again. Drat, Creepella muttered. That didn't last long. How did it feel, Geronimo? But before he could answer, she turned toward her grandfather. What's the green button for? She asked curiously. Can I press it? Grandpa Frankenstein quickly snatched the remote from her. That part of my invention still needs a little tweaking, he mumbled. But enough of that. Let's go see the exhibition. Chapter 4. A Dinosaur for Everyone. It was the most incredible exhibition anyone had ever seen. The crowd gathered around each exhibit, gaping at the rarest dinosaur skeletons in Mysterious Valley. The Von Cacklefur family was particularly excited. Even Geronimo had to admit he had never been to such a remarkable event. The exhibition included dinosaurs of all shapes and sizes. Grandma gripped like the smallest dino best. What an adorably spine-tingling little Minisaurus, she squeaked with delight. Snip and Snap preferred the very odd Bizarrosaurus. He looks so strange, they said, giggling. My favorite is the Gulposaurus, declared Chef Stewart. I'm positive he would have liked my stew. Shiverin nodded and pointed to another. I like the Sillysaurus, she said. Did you see him, his little laughing face? Then again, the Snorosaurus is also adorable, and the Megasaurus is really impressive. Grandpa Frankenstein seemed to be the only one not having a good time. He hadn't even used his ballbuster remote. Everyone at the exhibition was so excited to be there. No one was being boring at all. Grandpa Frankenstein looked around sadly. Maybe I'll try it randomly on someone, he said. You can't stun a rodent without a reason, Grandma Crypt scolded him. I'd argue that you shouldn't stun a rodent even if you do have a reason, Geronimo squeaked under his breath. You're right, Grandpa Frankenstein sighed. I'll only try it if I come across a rodent more suffocating than a casket buried in a bog. While the pros and cons of using the remote were being discussed, Geronimo began reading up on the exhibition. The next room is dedicated entirely to the exhibition's main attraction, he told the Von Cacklefurs. The Spookosaurus is supposed to be the scariest, creepiest, most dreadful dinosaur that ever existed. Creepella hurried toward the door. Well, what are we waiting for? She said eagerly. Let's go check it out right now. On the way into the next room, Creepella's father, Boris von Cacklefur, caught Geronimo's ear. He was just dying to tell some of his favorite scary jokes. Psst, Geronimo, Boris squeaked. Have you heard the one about the dinosaur? This much today only, friends. I had a lovely time reading to you all, and the next video would be there very soon. So to keep up to date, subscribe my channel. Thank you.